It's Wellness Wednesdays. It's Wellness Wednesdays, and I'm going to do a recap of the workshop over the weekend on healthy conflict. It was cool. It was, because it's summer, it was a smaller group, and so we did a roundtable instead of, I think I mentioned this on Monday, instead of the breakout sessions. Even though I got breakout sessions working properly on Zoom and then did not use it, that's okay. I still learned something. But we talked about healthy conflict and what I called embracing the suck. Mental health people love acronyms. And they're always thrive, soar, strive, chime was one that I heard last Friday. And it was like watching a waking nightmare for a mental health professional, because acronyms are huge. And the problem is there's so many acronyms, mnemonic acronyms, that you forget them because they all run together. And so one of the speakers at a show I was at was like, she said, I come up with this acronym. And then she forgot what the words meant. And I'm like, oh, this is awful. This is a nightmare. Like vicarious pain. But the acronym I came up for conflict was SUCK. Set boundaries and goals. Understand fully. Communicate effectively. Kindness, kindness, kindness. And it worked. Everybody's like, embrace the suck. And it was fun. And the reason I came up with suck is everybody hates conflict. Some people hate it in a manageable level. Some people hate it to the point where it shuts down. But it's like, instead of trying to be false positive and, oh no, let's soar, let's thrive. No, embrace the suck. This sucks. Go through it. And one of the things that came up is how to set boundaries. And that's hard. We're going to do a workshop in future about how to set boundaries, because it's a big topic on its own. The problem with this kind of stuff is where to start is always kind of arbitrary, no matter where you start. It ties into another skill that we haven't covered yet. And boundaries are central. In conflict, they are even more difficult because emotions are high, and it's more of an art than science. And that's why, one of my top 10 phrases, and it's not therapy, is people don't have to like your boundaries. They do have to respect them. I can think someone is setting a boundary in totally the wrong place. I can completely disagree that it's fair, but I'm going to respect it, because knowingly breaking a boundary is something you shouldn't do. And, as a manager, this is really important. Well, as anyone, because one of the big ones is that when you're raised by someone passive aggressive, when somebody doesn't say what they mean, I'm not talking to you, or I need to go. If you take them at their word of, all right, see you, they get mad. And you're like, what? So you get programmed that when somebody runs, you chase. Well, then you meet a person who actually means, don't talk to me, leave me alone. And you ignore that because you've been trained to ignore it. People don't mean what they say. And then you get accused of harassment. And that sucks, because somebody was trained with that. And there's no compassion for that programmed fawn response. And there have to be rules. And yeah, people can go too far. But again, you can correct the behavior and completely validate the fact that, like, that wasn't the person. That was something that was grafted onto the person. And we all know from Elden Ring, like, Godric the Grafted is a horror show. And you can think of a lot of that, the the training, the stuff that's been put on you that you're trying to shake off is those sort of abominations that each of the like Elden Ring lords was doing. They were all sort of trying to cheat the system to ascend to, the new Elden Lord. And they all ended up as fucking monsters accordingly. And the one I keep grappling with is, I forget her name now, but the lady in the academy with the cocoon fetus. There's always fetuses in those games. What the heck, feti? But there's this ongoing theme of like simulacrum women, like Doll in Bloodborne, or the grieving woman who's been driven mad by grief, and they're seen as sort of less. We see that as less bad or less damaging, and it's really not. If you've been raised by a mother, you're raised by any parent who has that unresolved stuff, if they were just sad all the time, and therefore, or most of the time, and therefore they weren't meeting their own needs, and they, passive aggressively trained you to anticipate their needs, that is gonna fuck up your adult relationships. You'll be seen as super charming for a while, and then you'll be seen as overbearing. And just stop. You may have gotten accused of being too pushy or not respecting space, and it hurt. It's like, it's confusing because that was the right thing to do, and suddenly it's the wrong thing to do. And that's why I come up with, because a lot of the conflict models I looked at take two people to do it properly, and you can't control the other person. So the conflict model that I came up with is specifically that it's only based on things you as an individual can control. You can set goals for a conflict. You can set boundaries for a conflict. Like, I'm willing to talk about this. I'm not willing to talk about this. And, you can make sure you understand the situation and where the other person is coming from before you open your mouth. That's actually a good debate strategy in general. And that doesn't mean agree. It means understand. You can communicate effectively, including intents, your emotional states, and really being authentic and present from a position of strength, not that codependent neediness that the family of origin stuff ties into. And then being kind in conflicts. It sounds completely counterintuitive, but it's so powerful. Remembering that hurt people. A person's reaction is not necessarily about you. Like, yeah, they're mad at you, they're taking it out on you, but everybody has underlying things, which is why certain things bother them more than others. And, remembering that you like the person, or if it's, a work thing, and you may not like the person, but you respect their work, you respect their role, connecting to that, reminding yourself of that, and making that inform your behavior and your approach. It's really important. It's, and you can be furious at someone and you can feel threatened and still, set boundaries for yourself too, in terms of lines you won't cross. Don't treat a person that way because you don't treat anyone that way. And I mean, obviously that's where the boundaries come in, but that's basically what we talked about on the workshop. Obviously they got, we went almost an extra hour. We went an extra 40 minutes because we started 10 minutes late for technical issues. My Outlook decided to crash right as presentation time started. But that's the basics. So that's what we sort of do in It's Not Therapy sessions, and it's Wellness Wednesday, so it's the same. Our next one is probably going to be in September, not the second week of September, because that's apparently when Starfield comes out. people are going to be playing that. But we will do another thing in September. My next my next goal is to finally get the men's groups up and running, the drop-in men's groups. So that's what I'm going to be doing over the summer. But I hope you found, this approach to conflict helpful and useful and informative. And if you did, some financial support would be appreciated. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Patrons are going to get the slides from the presentation, even if they didn't attend, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it, who can't afford it, so they get one-on-one customized service for this. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching and be well.